Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 special session is now convened. We do have a quorum, and we'll start with a regular session. Consider and take appropriate action to approve bid and award a contract for the water system improvements project on Pebble Beach Drive, Pin Oak Court, and Timberline Court, and authorize a general manager to execute related documents. Jennifer?
Okay, this is the projects that we budgeted for in the FY15 budget to do the water line upgrades on the streets that the town will be upgrading the streets, which are Pebble Beach Court, Pebble Beach Drive, Pin Oak Court, and Timberline Court. I provided you a handout on a funding summary, and we'll talk a little bit about the actual construction bid in a moment. But as you can see, the current, after we did some discussions with the contractor, the construction amount and the engineering amount together was about right at $320,000. We budgeted about $309,000, which gave us about an $11,000 shortage towards this project. However, some of our other projects in the water capital project funds this fiscal year have come out under budget. The water line study, we've got about $5,600. The campus circle water line, about $5,300. And the valve replacements, about $2,000, which is right at $13,000. So within the water line item budget for capital projects, we do have enough money to cover all three of the streets. We were concerned that we may have to drop one of those off, but we were able to, as I told the employees, empty out their pockets. We don't think we can shake out another penny from anywhere, but there it is. We managed to cover that. So the other handout that I provided to you, there was a question of just reminder of where all of these will be taking place, and these drawings were provided to us when we approved the engineering agreement, and you can see the sections of each of these streets that will be upgraded and where the water lines will be upgraded. Other than that, I will turn it over to Tom Rutledge, and he is here to answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, good to see everybody today. I know this is a special call meeting, and so appreciate you guys making the time to do this. The letter that we sent on May 21 to Jennifer recommending award to McClendon, unfortunately, in one respect, we only received one bid. We did a bid tabulation, and we gave that also to you guys. McClendon has done work actually in the town before. We've worked with them before. And as we did on the Indian Creek project, we actually have this set up as two independent contracts. There's a contract with the MUD, there's a contract with the town. So you are still independently executing a contract with that contractor just for those water improvements. The one thing that we did, and naturally you'd never like to see just one bid because you don't have anything to reference that against. Ideally, you'd like to have at least three bids because you know you get a high and a low, and then you want that middle one to see where are you really in the process, but we didn't get that. When we looked at this overall, based on the current prices that we're seeing, we felt like that the bids that we received, both for the street portion as the town portion and the water, were consistent with what we've been seeing on other public works projects that we have with other municipalities. So what we did with McClendon, we brought them in and sat down with them, both with the town and with Jennifer and Mike, and we were really upfront with them and told them, look, we don't know what the MUD will do, we don't know what the town will do, whether or not we'll rebid this job, but what we're asking you to do is to look at, since you're the only bidder, to look at your time and your cost and come back to us to see if there's any savings that we can realize from some things that we could do differently. So they They came back about a week later after that meeting, and so last week we did meet with them, and they did find some things that we could do that help with the phasing of the job. And then they also offered up some savings in the utilities, which would help us there. So in this letter that we put together on May 21st to Jennifer, that the low bid was $319,794.25. That after our meeting and negotiating with the contractor, then that total was reduced to $294,994.25. So they did come back and reduce that, the cost and the amount of time to do that work. So our recommendation to you is that we award that to them. I don't think we'll, it's always hard to say, could you get it any cheaper? I think by the time we go through the process of rebidding it, if we were going to rebid it, we've said the same thing to the town. At the council meeting earlier this week, the council has awarded it to move forward for that portion. Certainly it's your discretion on how you feel about that. But we feel like that they have come back and done some things that does make it worth awarding the contract to them. So I'll answer any questions that you guys might have.
Jim,
Questions? Oh, Director Thomas.
Tom,
Yes, sir.
3 quick ones for you.
Sir.
In the timelines that they've given, 245 calendar days for Pebble Beach, 210 for Pin Oak. Are these concurrent?
They are not, and I'm glad you asked that question. So here's how we did this. You can imagine if you take 3 streets, and if we just turned it over to the contractor, that he would go tear one street up, and then he's got that torn up, then he goes to the next street, and he mobilizes over there and tears that up, and then the third one. And then he comes back, and then he's starting to do work on the first street, and then the next one. So you keep those streets torn up longer. So the way the contract is prepared is he has to complete the work on one street before he can go to the next one.
So it's a 15-month project instead of 8 and 7.
In essence, what he did there, Jim, is he cut 3 months out of the contract time, because what we allowed him to do, if you're looking at our letter of recommendation, in the contract we had 290 days for Pebble Beach, 185 for Pin Oak, and then 155 for Timberline. We got him to cut down his time on Pebble Beach to 245, and then we allowed him to combine Pin Oak and Timberline together, and that got combined together 210 days because of the way he'll do that work simultaneously. So cut 3 months out of it, which means 3 months that the residents are not suffering through construction, and that time reduction translates in cost savings as well.
Jim, I have 2 more, but I'll wait until the others have asked.
You mentioned that he's going to do one and then start the next one when he gets done, but you just said Pin Oak and Timberline are being worked together, right?
That's right, Kevin. The way that was originally set up, we were making him do one to go to the next one, and so through this negotiating with him, we asked him to come back to us and present cost savings and to reduce his time. We then allowed him to combine Pin Oak and Timberline Court together with the idea of that he wouldn't just keep those torn up, that work would get done more simultaneous. For you guys on the water portion, it's not as going to be, it really doesn't change a whole lot when it comes to the water, because that's the first thing he's going to have to do anyway is the water improvements. We'll put the temporary service line in, and then we'll go in there and take out the old line and put the new one in. That's the utility work is the first work he does. So you're actually realizing a benefit because of how we're allowing him to sequence more of the street reconstruction than the water line work. And so you've gained some benefit of that because of how we allowed him to combine those two together. Did I answer your question?
I just had another, this is more on the town side, but as far as, obviously these are cul-de-sacs like Pin Oak and
All
Pebble
three
Beach,
of
I
them
don't know
are.
what part, if it's down by the end of it, but in and out, I mean, it's gonna be,
You are right. We have just, and I'll just tell you, just in going through this process with the town, and you guys are town residents, so you're just as equally as concerned. We spent a lot of time with the town staff going through this, trying to find a way to minimize, and there is no matter which way you slice this, it is going to be difficult and an inconvenience to the residents. To that point, let me just say, because Mike was asking me this question, we are going to schedule, the town's working on this now and made Jennifer and Mike aware of this, a public meeting here on June the 8th. In the evening, their town's working on getting that notice out to these residents, to invite all of the residents and certainly anybody else who has an interest to come here so we can explain the project and to give them a heads up on what's coming and how this process, construction, will work.
can we be sure that there's contact numbers they can call? Because I know other street projects, there's things that happen and they don't know who to call, and.
Oh, yeah, by all means. We're going to have the contractor here for that meeting so that him and his superintendent are here, and so that we make sure we not only have representation from ourselves, but we have the contractor there to answer those questions.
Director Toomey.
Were there any other savings besides the time realignment, if you want to call it that?
There was on the water. He did come back and he, and I'm not sure how this happened. He went back to his utility contractor, and what he said to us was that there was some realized savings out of some of the cost in some of the water pipe, and that translated to you guys, which I think was out about 8,000. Was that
Yes,
correct?
and what he said was that after we met with him the first time and he went back, he said the utility contractor received a lower bid on the pipe, but it was after the bidding for the project had closed, so he could now go get the pipe from the lower bidding vendor, I suppose. Right. So that's how he came up with the 8,000 savings on that. Tom, while I have you too, I didn't bring that schedule with me, but would you let them know just specifically what about the work time for just the water line out of the days?
Let's see.
It was only maybe 30 days for the utility work, I believe.
Yeah, let's see if I've got that here.
Like Indian Creek, obviously we do that up front, so technically our water stuff will be done before they probably break concrete.
Yes. They will be breaking up driveways to get through, to install the new water line, but the street itself won't be broken up until after they're completely through, really.
We're gonna wait until they complete, like Pin Oak and Timberline, it's gonna be done the same time. But Pebble Beach, are they gonna wait till Timberline and Pin Oak are done before they start the water portion? Or once we're done the water portion, we move on to the next one?
That's right. He'll do Pebble Beach first. And so he'll go down Pebble Beach, we'll set that temporary line in the gutter, and then he'll start the water. And he won't go start on the other streets until Pebble Beach is completed for the water. So once the water is done, because that utility crew will be focused there with a backhoe and doing that work. Once that water is done, you're right, he'll go across those driveways and he's going to be in that parkway. He puts temporary gravel back in there so that they can get in and out. And so then that water line, once it's accepted, and you guys and through Mike has done the inspection and he's good there, then he'll move over to the next street and do the same thing on that.
So we aren't waiting until the road pavement is done. Okay, great.
No, in fact, that's really to everyone's advantage to get him in there, get that done, get the water line done, and then.
Bill, did you have any other questions?
Oh, Kevin and Jim Thomas already covered what I had in there, so
Okay.
I'm all set.
Director Thomas, you had a question.
I had a couple more, but I wanted to yield to the others
Right,
before
go
asking.
ahead.
Tom, just a quick one. Have y'all worked with McClendon before?
We have. They've actually worked in the town before. I don't recall if I don't think we did the last street job. We had the water in the contract, so I don't know if they've had a contract for the mud.
But this
they
is
have done work in Trophy Club before.
Okay.
And we have done other street projects. This is really, right in their sweet spot for this kind of work. This is the kind of contract that's typical for them, and so they know how to man this and do this work. And Jim McClendon's been around a long time, and have a lot of confidence in them. And what I always like to see in a situation like this, it's kind of rare when you only get one bid, that a contractor does come back to you like he did, and he could say, well, this is as good as it gets, and I can't do anything. But he did come back
Working
and
with you,
provide
yeah.
some savings there, and we appreciate that.
Do you have any personal feelings as to why Fane didn't bid?
Well, there's not any personal feelings that we just know. We talked to them. Bidding this job, just so you'll know, we always call contractors when the bids go out to make sure that everybody's aware of the job. And we talked to Fane when the project was being put together and asked them if they would bid it. They said that they would not. They had already a lot of other work that they'd already committed to, the projects they had won, and they just thought that this project was going to be pretty overwhelming, and they just didn't feel like they could staff it.
Okay.
It's a
Jennifer,
small
one last
project
question for you,
per
and then
se,
I'm done.
too. It's small
You
change.
had mentioned shortfall, but the 319 cut to 294, budgeted 308. We actually don't have a shortfall.
With the engineering, we do. If you look at this page,
Uh-huh.
the engineering was 25, the new construction 294, which makes 319, or I'm sorry, right at 320, 319, 994, and we budgeted 308, 906. So that was a small shortfall, but we were able to find the funds in some water projects that came under budget.
So the 25 is over and above the 294 that's on this page.
Yes,
That's on this one.
yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
I do want to point one thing out too on the contractor. They are actually using a subcontractor to do the utility work. It's PC, right? And Mike said that they have not done a water line project for the district, but they have done a sewer project in Trophy Club before.
Director
That
Hayes, you have a
subcontractor.
question.
Now, Timberline Court, as you're driving down Indian Creek to the east, is Timberline Court that cul-de-sac to the right or the one?
To the right.
Okay.
It's the one that goes real steep, kind of gets up there, and it's a real awkward.
Not affecting the one on the left.
No, sir.
We're gonna put a barrier in front of you. Something low.
Any further questions, anybody?
I had one more on the bonds and insurance. Is that typical where, I mean, it's one project per se, but each element requires bond and insurance?
We have a separate contract, so it does require a separate bond issued to the district.
That's right.
Okay, for each phase of it, like Timberline, Pebble Beach?
It'll be one bond and insurance as a comprehensive of the three streets. So
It's just broken
for
out
you
in each
that's
one.
right. We did that just so it's easier to manage and to pay him based on work complete, and it's a unit price contract. But we did this so that the town and MUD being separate entities, each respective entity has their own bonds and insurance and contracts, so you guys can manage this as if it's just a standalone.
And to kind of take that a step forward, backwards. For example, if the town and or the MUD decided we didn't want to do just one of the streets, Pin Oak, that way that cost would back out too. Otherwise, you would be, if it were just one bid for the bond, and you decided not to do one of those streets, then you're going to pay for the full amount of the bond, including that street. So that's why they divide it up over the streets like that.
Tom, the town has already accepted to do this.
They did at the last council meeting this week.
Jim, can
they
I make a
awarded
motion?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept Teagnall Perkins' recommendation that we approve a awarding of a bid to McClendon in the amount of $319,994.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, we'll call for.
Yeah, can we,
hold it.
do you mind amending it just to include the project, like?
Yeah, you're right, Kevin. This would include the refitting or reconstruction of Pebble Beach, Pin Oak Court, and Timberline Court.
Thank you.
Okay.
You accept it?
I accept it.
No further questions. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Tom,
Once
thank you.
again, Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Rutledge.
All right.
Hope you
Good to
feel
see
better.
you again. Yeah, it's a real pleasure.
Through this, I'll survive. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We will now adjourn to our closed session. The time is 11:20. Pam, would you lead us into it?
Yes. The board will conduct a closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code annotated Chapter 551, Subchapter D for the following. Pursuant to Section 551071, the district will consult with its attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Open Meetings Act, or to seek advice of counsel on legal matters involving pending or contemplated litigation or settlement offers, allegations of misuse of property within Trophy Club Fire Department.
Thank you, Pam. It was suggested that we adjourn into Jennifer's office for the closed session, which, if we'll now all move in there, if everybody's ready.
And what time, sir?
I'm sorry?
What time is it?
Oh, it was 11:20 when I called the closed session.
President, I have a motion. My motion is that the MUD will engage an entity to evaluate fire operations and procedures in order to identify areas working efficiently and those areas that need improvement.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Oh, second. Kari, did you get that?
It took a while for it to start. I got about half of it.
Can you
Okay.
repeat? any
I'll
way you
repeat the
want?
motion.
Hey, let's start over, Carrie.
Take two.
Neil, do you have a motion?
Yes, Mr. President, I have a motion. The MUD will engage an entity to evaluate fire operations and procedures in order to identify areas working efficiently and those areas needing improvement.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
No, I didn't.
Oh, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 3 in favor and 2 against.
No, I voted for.
Oh, you voted for, okay. You got it, Laurie?
Yep.
Director Hayes, are you against or abstaining?
I'm against.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a waste of money.
Okay, do we have any further motions?
I make a motion that we direct the general manager to follow the steps in sections of January 7th, 2013 interlocal agreement for fire department personnel services.
Second?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Director Thomas, second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, Jim, that's not gonna cost any money, Jim. Okay.
I'm not voting against.
If there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote. All of those in favor? It is unanimous. If there are no further motions to come before us today, this special session is now adjourned at 12:52.